And we are on with Matt Keay with us today. CEO at Business on Camera, We Maple founder. He's a tech investor as well. Uh, Award-winning documentary filmmaker, facilitator, media and marketing executive, specialty media, mental health, and energy. Has a passion for skateboard as well. So co-chair at Calgary Association of Skateboarding Enthusiasts. That was a couple of years ago, but interesting guy altogether. This pod is presented to you by podfire.com. If you want to start a podcast, you want to monetize podcasting, you can do so with my company. Find us at podpire.com. Have a free ebook for you and a masterclass to help you monetize through AdSense, sponsors, and lead gen with podcasting. Matt, glad to have you on the podcast. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Hey, thanks, Charles, for having me on today. As I said, your marketing is absolutely fantastic and caught my attention. And the way you build your funnels, I think, is really impressive. As someone who studies marketing, who does marketing and is interested in marketing, I'm always curious on the effectiveness of what outreach has done to me. And so, yeah, fantastic opportunity to come on and spend some more time with you. Yeah, a bit about me. I'm a father of three young kids and owner of a business on camera here in Calgary, Alberta, and Western Canada. We're a digital marketing agency. We have a team of five, and then we have a second company in our portfolio, a film company called We Maple. We produce world-class documentary films, soon to be on Amazon Prime. Shout out Amazon, come on, approve our application. And then also, yeah, I make some investments and growing and learning that as part of my portfolio as well. The skateboarding thing, former co-chair, no longer on that board of directors, but in Calgary, we've become known here as a city that's got more skate parks per capita than almost anywhere in North America, thanks to the work of the Calgary Skateboarding Association.
That's pretty cool. And what got you started in life and entrepreneurship? Were you always an odd bird seeking freedom and to do your own thing, or wasn't that the case early on?
Um, it started for me in sales, direct sales, and then retail sales. I became quite excellent at retail sales and door-to-door sales, and but also I just always had this passion for skateboarding. And in stride with skateboarding, if you didn't film a trick, it didn't happen. So I always had a skateboard in one hand, a video camera in the other, and just eventually pursued that as my career. And specifically to your question about entrepreneurship, that culture in skateboarding, there's a lot of independence and a lot of just kind of do it on your own. And that culture just sort of streamed over into my career. And so after graduating as a producer at a fantastic college here in Alberta called SAIT, after graduating as a producer, I had one foot in, I want to start a company, and one foot in, I need a job to pay my mortgage for a while. And then eventually, as most entrepreneurs do, you just eventually make that choice to, take the plunge, take the leap into being a business owner, which I did in 2010.
And what's your fascination with documentaries and exploring or understanding a specific topic in depth? And how is the camera a good technological tool to advance your own learning into one topic?
That's such an interesting question. We've done 17 documentary film projects, and mostly they were things that I just observed that were going on in and around Alberta, where I live here in Western Canada. Our first documentary, for example, was about some university students building a solar powered house and then putting it on a truck and bringing it to Washington, D.C. to compete in a competition called Solar Decathlon. And so I just heard about that and thought it was so cool. So I just showed up with a camera and started filming. And they were our first real client. And that was our first documentary. And so the inspiration really came from what was going on in and around my life, or things that I saw, and then figuring out how to finance these documentaries through the private sector, through sponsorships and brand partnerships and advertising. And then in Canada, we're blessed here, especially in Alberta, with the public support through the Alberta Media Fund and the federal government of Canada. And so in Canada, essentially, you can get these documentaries funded close to half with public money, and then you need to go out and fundraise and find ways to fund the second half. And so for me, it was always sort of a combination of what's going on in and around my province that I observed to be interesting or going on in my life. And then also in stride with that is how to find the money to make a movie.
How did your life change since you had kids? Did that change some of your philosophies? Are you investing more or less time in business? How did that change you?
You know, the thing that attracted me the most to entrepreneurship was freedom. When I started my company, is having freedom over my time. You know, an example of that, you know, being in a job where you got to work 9 to 5, you got a dentist appointment, or once you have kids, you've got kids that have dentist appointments, or you have someone needs to get picked up at school, or you know, these sorts of things that evolve to your question around how life changes with kids. Is having the freedom and flexibility with your schedule and your time is such a fantastic thing to build a life in and around your kids. You know, I got to give a shout out to Casey Neistat on this one. I heard him describe optimizing his time around that, say, 3-hour window after the kids are out of school, where you know, there's no business in that time. That's the optimal time to be with your kids. And then, you know, he does his workouts later in the evening and does his business, you know, super deep work early morning before the kids are up. And so, yeah, for me, it's optimizing those pockets of time where, you know, there's 5 or 6 hours of the day when your kids aren't in school that you can be with them. So how do you be at peak energy? How do you be at, you know, your peak mood and in a good space where you're not worried about business, that you can be present and be with your children and learn them, teach them, coach them, spend time with them. And then, yeah, like I say, optimize schedule in and around being the best parent that you can.
And do you feel that documentary as a business is providing you that flexibility? Isn't it like super intensive when you're filming that from a time perspective?
You know, I come back to team, the idea of team. I'm a graduate of Landmark's Team Management and Leadership Program, which is a 2-year, very intensive training on how to build effective teams, measure effectiveness, and how to be an effective and enrolling leader, and having your team really deeply connected in a meaningful way to their career, where they show up, they're powerful, they're self-expressed, they're enjoying what they're doing in their career. And so the documentary, you know, we have an entire film crew that produces these films. You know, I have my particular role as the founder and leading the business development and the financing and the public, you know, we steward you responsible and accountable stewards of public money. So that, you know, there's certain things that I need to do at certain times. But generally, having a really strong team that's connected in a meaningful way to their career helps me create more freedom in my schedule.
Right. And you did documentaries for companies such as Ever, Fortis. These retail for 250K for you and then 250K for the partner, right? Or something around these lines. Is that like the core of the business that you're making nowadays, or do you have other companies that are more cash flow oriented?
Well, the couple of examples that you referenced, Ever Technologies would be what's called a brand partner. Fortis Alberta was another fantastic partner. They weren't involved in the film documentary side, but we produced a fantastic brand video for them, unrelated to We Maple and the documentaries. But yeah, we look to align with partners who have an excellent story. And then also on the dollar figure you mentioned, you know, in the film world, the $500,000 is a production budget for 6 episodes. So a typical episode would be, say, 22 minutes, which leaves 8 minutes for commercial time, which is sort of an older structure of productions being designed for traditional television, which in Canada, to get access to the public dollars, generally you need a traditional broadcaster. So these projects are typically 22 minutes. And so Ever would be a brand partner for a 10 or a 20-minute film, along with some of the other partners. And then the public money gets close to that 200-ish range. And then we look to find other financing to get that other 200. And then that's how we'd get to a $500,000 production budget.
And then on the documentary side of things, you and I, we talked about last time some documentaries that I watched. For example, Avicii's recent documentary. I find it sort of boring. Feels it's always the same. How do you make a documentary captivating? Of course, it's about telling a story, but what other concepts are there to catch someone's attention and ultimately, in your space, convert them into clients?
Yeah, and I just first want to acknowledge your background. What's your accent? Where are you from initially?
Montreal.
Oh, you're French. Okay, documentaire. Oui, bonjour. Comment ça va? Je me permets oui, un peu français. But yeah, it's funny. You know, I have some friends from Italy. When I hang out with them for like a month, we actually met in Las Vegas, and I find I start to talk like them. So when you're saying documentary, I'm like, oh, documentary, but documentary is typically how we'd say in traditional English. But yeah, with the documentary projects, you know, we want to align with groups that have a fantastic story to tell. With We Maple Season 3, it's really around technology and innovation and entrepreneurship. And so we find groups who have an excellent, you know, world-class story to tell. And then we also want to, you know, to go from our filmmaking hat to our world-class digital marketing award-winning business on camera agency hat, where the documentaries are effective. You know, they can be cut into short form content depending on the platform. For YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels, they can have the finished 10 or 20-minute piece that would play on YouTube, and they can host on their website. It can be used at an event, and, you know, invite stakeholders and investors and partners to screen the short film, and then entered in film festivals. Ever's documentary Underground Underdog, as part of We Maple Season 3, just won a Marcom, which these Marcoms are one of the most prestigious marketing communications awards that you can win, at least in the top 5 globally. So, you know, we want to find effective storytelling, that the asset is interesting to the viewer and then also useful to the business. You know, Ever is a fantastic case study for this. We've been in Stride since they've had, you know, 10 employees and a pilot project now to 150 employees, and they've raised over $500 million. And so we're really keen on groups that have scalable solutions that can make a difference for the world. And then how can we support them in crafting and designing a story and a message to the right audience types that are going to get those tangible business results in the real world. It's one thing to make an excellent, fantastic video or story or graphic or social media platform or website or whatever the creative asset is, but it's a whole other thing that that asset becomes useful and makes a difference. And so brand is a big part of what these assets support, and something we're really keen on helping groups build is their brand.
Yeah, and the research that goes into that, right? And coming up with a different angle. I guess the listener of a documentary, they love when they see IQ and different angles in the documentaries or the mini docu-series that you're making for your client. I can see the value into that. How do you actually promote a mini docu-series like that? I saw that you did so with Ever on social media, got a bunch of likes and followers. What's the strategy there? Is it like, hey, we're gonna launch this documentary, stay tuned? What's your strategy for that?
Well, to unpack that a little bit, and again, just for 100% clarity and context, I don't work for Ever. We're their marketing agency, but when we started with them, they had 50 or 60 LinkedIn followers as an example, and now 5 years later, they have 25,000. And there's ways to build those audiences that are high integrity, ethical ways to build social media following that these are C-suite engineers, these are geoscientists, and these are it's a quality audience that was built that took a lot of time, a lot of thought and strategy in how to go from 50 LinkedIn followers to 25,000. That's quality, that are real quality global fans, and so as far as process, our approach at Business on Camera is something that we like to call creative intelligence, where it's one thing, like I was describing, to be a really creative person or have a really creative, interesting asset. It's another to have that be useful and intelligent and have the research and data and measurable outcome that the asset is going to be effective in reaching the particular goal. Another, excellent entrepreneur, Gary Vaynerchuk, of course, talks about, you need tailored content depending on platform, depending on audience, and everything needs to be specific for that particular platform. And then how to repurpose and retool and reuse and optimize and leverage, all these sorts of things. So there's a lot in the sphere that we take into play when we're designing these marketing and brand strategies.
And then what part is online vs what part is physical? Do you hire more visual After Effects people nowadays, or animations people? Or is it 50-50 between like a real cameraman that goes on the field to film actual content?
Yeah, with the documentaries, they're classic in the sense of we go and film interviews in the real world with real people, with real cameras and a real film crew. So for us, that still exists in the traditional format of documentary storytelling. And then in the post-production side, we have a whole team who manages the post-production and After Effects and color correction and graphics and music and sound and audio design and all of the excellent things that bring that added, emotional experience for the viewer. If you check out We Maple on YouTube, you can just search We Maple. You'll see the documentaries, and truly world class. It pulls the emotions. There's a story arc and a climax and a conflict and an end, and that really draws the viewer in. And so the post-production side's super important for the music and the way the product looks visually.
Right. Let's go with a rapid fire session. What habits are you working on to make 2025 better for you, more productive and a happier year, quote unquote?
And one of the most important things is, of course, my kids, and having them lean into creativity and athletics, and designing a future for them where they're self-expressed in their lives and develop their passions. Music is another big one. In our career and our business, I'm really keen on the development and training and mentorship of our team, and them showing up, like I was describing, powerful and self-expressed and aligned with their passion and what they want to achieve in their career, and helping them get exactly what it is that they want, and nurturing that on the team side. And then for me personally, audiobooks is big, learning is big. The consumption of content and becoming as great a leader as I can, and growing my capacity and my training and development. Health and fitness, of course, is a big one for me this year, to free up more time and be more intentional to take care of my well-being. And one huge thing I gotta say, Charles, has been optimizing sleep. I've noticed just a huge difference in my ability to, wake up at 5 a.m. and be the same energy level from 5 a.m. until my head hits the pillow, typically at 9:45 p.m., and be able to optimize through intermittent fasting, the right exercise routine, the time of day I take my supplements, the time of day I take the protein, all of those things optimized so that when you wake up at 5 a.m., you have the same energy level until 9 p.m. without those dips. And so for me, managing my personal well-being, and that translates to how effective I can be as a father and how effective I can be as a leader here at Business on Camera and We Maple.
What have been your best personal and business investments of last year?
AirPods. Truly, the best investment I've made is in optimizing time. I kind of jokingly say around AirPods, but if I'm out and I'm not working or I'm not on a phone call, I'm learning. If I'm or consuming some music and getting into the right energy and but last year, truly, the outside of all the excellent, fantastic things about my kids and what's going on in our business and the results we're getting for our clients, outside of all of those fantastic things, for me personally, it was graduating from the second year of the team management and leadership program through the Landmark Forums education. It's a 2 year commitment if you do the full 2 years. 10 to 20 hours a week for 2 years in this program, where you're trained in development in team management, leadership, and there's all sorts of incredible specific things that I learned. But truly, what happened after that 2 year experience is you just show up and become a different kind of person, a very distinct kind of human being, and it completely altered my way of how I show up at work, how I show up as a dad, and in all my life areas. And so in the last year, it was completing in Q3 the second year of team management and leadership.
And into words specifically, how did that change you? Did that make you more patient, more full of empathy, of love? How did that change you?
Yeah, I mean, all of those gifts went in stride with the development. Became more empathetic and became a better, more keen listener and really listening to the point of, especially on the phone, people are like, "Are you still there?" And I don't have a lot of ums or uh-huh or words that silence is some of the best part of classical music, is that beat where it's quiet. And so for me, when I'm listening, I'm really listening and taking in what the person's saying. There's all sorts of interesting techniques that you're trained and developed in. One that I use with my kids that's fantastic is called recreation, where if something's happened and one of the kids is really upset and they're my brother hit me and they're crying, there's this tool, recreation, where it's, oh, so your brother hit you, yes, and so and it hurt, yes, and you didn't like it, yes, and it made you feel sad, yes, anything else, and silence, and anything else, and keep and take that extra 2 to 4 minutes. Or I've found from my experience, if I take that extra 2 to 4 minutes when one of my kids is upset about something, and take that time that they really feel heard, then usually whatever it was that happened goes away instantly, just because they really felt like they were listened to. And so
Right.
recreation has been a fantastic tool with my kids and also in business.
And what were your biggest challenges in 2024?
For me, it's been my recovery journey and some struggles with alcoholism that I've had for quite some time. I've been in recovery since 2019, and I've had, I jokingly say, I've graduated from relapses to slips, where I have these compartmentalized, 3 to 10 day using alcohol in these intermittent periods throughout the past couple of years, and uh, typically I'd go and drink for like 3 to 6 months, and so my progression in recovery has been excellent progress, not perfection, as some may say. But it's been a challenge. There's some deep rooted challenges that I have, and it's a very serious, as they call it in the literature, a disease, and an obsession. And so, for whatever reason, just suddenly the wind will change directions, and I could find myself thinking about alcohol. And so that's something that requires consistent attention daily, daily practice, prayer and meditation, and meetings, and lots of things that I need to do in order to manage my well-being.
Yeah, and I guess that's a thing. Well, it's genetics first. Like me, I'm 25% Irish, right? But it's also like our personality, right? Us entrepreneurs, we have like something towards addiction. We're really obsessed as well, and these things they help us being super successful in the business realm, which is incredibly hard, right? Me sort of went out of that period in my childhood and adolescence. Well, not childhood, adolescence most. and I'm glad I got out of it, because yeah, it was a real addiction for me for solid 6 or 7 years of binge drinking, which I'm surprised it didn't damage my brain that much. But yeah, thanks for sharing that. Apart from the landmark program for self healing, what other modalities are you using on yourself to sort of transit away from the alcohol addiction? Do you have some meditation in there, skateboarding? How do you de-intensify the need for alcohol?
Yeah, well, I've got a book in a third draft right now called Designated Screwdriver that's coming out, that's about recovery and alcoholism and addiction, and some of those connections and alignment you're describing with entrepreneurship. And so a big part of what's supported me is writing a lot of this out and working with a team to produce a book, which will be available on Amazon in Q2. But I have a daily practice of prayer and meditation and exercise and meetings that I go to, and connecting with a certain circle and colleagues of people who have a similar challenge of alcoholism. And so, like I say, there's a long list of things that I do daily, prayer, meditation being key, my connection to a higher power that I choose to call God, maintaining my well-being and sleep and exercise and eating correctly. All of those things help keep that at bay. And
That's
crushing
great.
it in business, because when you're not worried about your financial well-being, it's a lot easier to manage all of those other things. And not just my financial well-being, but we're employing close to 10 people, so taking care of other families as well.
100%. Last question related to the rapid fire. What are you reading nowadays? What is your knowledge obsession? You named a couple of references here, but any specific audiobook that you're listening, or podcast that you cannot stop listening?
Oh man, there's so many. On my flight over to Dubai last month, I consumed Heat, the movie Heat with De Niro and Pacino. There's a Heat 2 audiobook. So excellent. Michael Bay has a publishing company that, and it was just so engaging and exciting. And to visualize what that would be like in a movie was so interesting as a filmmaker. And I just loved it on the fiction side. And then on the nonfiction side, lately I've been going deep. Jordan Belfort's such a fantastic sales trainer, and he has his Straight Line book. And I've just over and over and over been studying and learning this approach that he takes to sales that he calls Straight Line, that I've been consuming. And then I have a half dozen or so books on the go around money and finances and investing, and to just really understand and develop a set of principles. Ray Dalio talks about this and sort of applying this across the board, is what are the set of principles and what's the order of decision making in order to make decisions? What set of values and principles are in place before the decision making process starts? And so looking to apply that to investing and to business. And there's like I say, a half dozen or more books that I am in the middle of to start to really study that. And lastly, mindset. Think and Grow Rich is an example, but there's a ton of excellent literature out there and podcasts. It's just getting your mindset right, whether that's affirmations, journaling, whatever the process is, to just get your mindset correctly. I find that to be critically important to learn about as well.
Love it, Matt. Where can people find out more about you and your company?
Yeah, thanks so much, Charles. businessoncamera.com, just the way it's said phonetically, businessoncamera.com. And our film company, you can search on YouTube for We Maple, or visit the website at wemaple.com.
It was Matt and Charles.